Yes, fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, yes. Shall I
Yeah.
allow her?
Yeah, you may allow.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. And what about you?
I'm good. And yourself? Well,
Yeah, very well, very well.
well as can be expected, right?
Pardon me?
Have you ever had Lyme disease? I looked for my mic and I couldn't find it this morning. Is the sound okay?
Yeah, sound is good. Sound is good. Yeah. No, I didn't had any Lyme disease, but I had an issue, health issue, which had some similarity Lyme disease, the effect of Lyme disease. Yeah, I had.
So you understand the healthcare chronic journey.
Yeah, understand. So
Yeah.
getting misdiagnosed multiple times. Yeah, that's it. And at last finding a solution. Still, it is not a permanent. There is no permanent solution. So same thing. Only thing is
Yes.
that the name of the disease is different. That's all.
Yeah, well, it's all inflammation in the end
Yeah,
and bacteria.
yeah. Okay. So as you know, we are doing this live. Yeah. So it'll be in the YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Yeah. Shall we start?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So welcome to Lyme Support Network podcast, hosted by Holistic Therapy Tribe. In each episode, we walk with someone from the Lyme community, like a doctor, warrior, coach, or an advocate, to help their personal story and insights. Today, our focus is on a Lyme coach. Our guest is Rhonda Hodishel.
Howdy, Shell.
Howdishel. Rhonda Howdishel. Rhonda is a 10th generation Virginian with an extensive career in non-profit leadership, entrepreneurship, and invention. As the founder of Crown Clips, Rhonda has created a successful business after inventing the product. But her contributions don't stop there. She founded the Cinderella Project, helping over 2,500 teens attend a prom and giving back more than $2 million to the community. Her leadership roles include president on President and CEO, Crown Clips, Education Ambassador, Global Lyme Alliance, founder and president, Cinderella Project. Rhonda has succeeded in areas like public relations, marketing, and non-profit leadership. But it's her personal journey and efforts to help others that truly inspire. Rhonda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So you have mentioned you are a 10th generation Virginia. How has your family history and upbringing shaped your approach to life and challenges?
Oh, well, that's easy. I'm from a Marine family. And my mother would say to us, even though we would complain, you see, I was first bitten. Do you understand this term, first bitten? Our Lyme community might. Probably when I was 8 years old. And since that was over 63 years ago, nobody knew nothing about no Lyme or any bug that was making you sick. And so when I broke out in the rash from head to toe, not often is it a bullseye rash, very seldom, very seldom. Why they say this, I still don't know, but they do. And of course, began to get sick and began to get hurt and began to have allergies And here I was, a little kid, not understanding. And so my Marine mother said to me, if you wake up alive, you get up out of that bed. And we had no choice. You had to move on. You had to move through. And I was just told that my pain was part of growing pains. And Lyme disease hurts. Don't get me wrong. It hurts. But it also, your body is a miraculous thing. It can cure itself, especially if you're young and you don't have a lot of other toxins coming into your life. You can rectify this, hopefully with the help of your religion and your God with you. You can rectify this and live kind of a normal life until you don't. So I actually, people say, oh, well, you've been cured of Lyme. You were given this. Well, the thing is, it's never that simple. When you've been misdiagnosed since you were 8 years old, the number of operations, the number of things they said were wrong with me, the amount of money and doctors that were thrown into this, because the doctor said I had this, I had that. It was just mind-boggling. And if I did have all these things, why are they gone now? Why are they gone now? Because I wasn't until I was 62 years old that I even questioned what the doctor was saying. I was at a pageant, and that's why this is hanging here. I was at a pageant, an international pageant, and I was with a lady who had very serious Lyme disease, and she's dead now. She died from it. And she had started a foundation called The Little Glimmer of Hope. And it was early on, so there a lot of people were dying and not their death certificates never said Lyme disease, by the way. I'm sure not. But she started talking to us as a group while we were waiting for our plane. And she handed me a sheet of paper that had Lyme symptoms on them. And I began to read over them. I was thinking, oh my gosh, check, 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 check. I'm like, wait a minute. And no one ever thought about that. So here that is, put into my hands, put into my brain, by God, and I'm retired, right? Still wasn't enough. So he sent another tick to bite me. And I remember it biting me. And I'm like, okay, tick bit me. So I looked up all the stuff, and it was on for less than 8 hours. I looked, there was no bullseye rash. And, I got a little sick about a week later, but, the flu was going around just like it is now. Didn't think too much about it. And then the symptoms became really tired. The tiredness, everyone hallmark, the pain, the migraine pain in the back of your neck, the paralyzation of your face, and you feel like you're walking in concrete. That's what my Lyme doctor, I didn't have a Lyme doctor then. I went to my general physician, and the only reason I went was because I had a purplish red rash on the back of my calf, clearly 4 feet away from where the tick bit me, right here. And I thought I was going to die from a blood clot. So I kind of called the doctor. And I got in there, and she looked at my history. She'd already put me through a hip replacement, 2 shoulders. She'd already put me on arthritis medicine from head to toe, very serious, heavy duty medicine, so I could get up out of bed and continue my philanthropy work in my nonprofit world, helping people, because that's the only thing that made me feel better, helping people and not thinking about myself, right? So she said, Rhonda, I think you have Lyme disease. And she prescribed Doxy, just like they all do, 15 days of Doxy. For what I know now is anyone could tell that was disseminated Lyme. That was Lyme that had spread. That was not a first bitten reaction. But we know more now, and they're not quite doing any better. I talk to people who go to the emergency room, and they just give you 3 days and a high dose of Doxy and think they're heading things off the pass. They don't realize all they're doing is shutting off the reactive bullseye rash, migrants rash, whatever it would be. They just shut that down. So it's more stealth than you'd think. She diagnosed me, and I didn't feel like I was better, although I was better. I was functioning better, but I didn't feel well. And that's when I heard about a Lyme literate medical doctor, and I started to go to her. And they took
So
the.
when was it? When
Yes.
was it?
I was 62, so it was 2017. I went to her, and I had already been to my regular doctor, your primary care physician, the one that usually gets paid for. And then I went to the Lyme literate medical doctor. And in between the time, the Department of Health called me. This is an organization in America that keeps track of things and reports things to CDC, blah, 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 blah. So evidently the doctors were required to report. And the only thing they asked me was this: did you have blood work done? And I said, no. Well, thank you. Click. They didn't count me, right? Matter of fact, that they said that year there were no cases of Lyme disease in my area. And I'm sitting there thinking how many people like me were diagnosed on symptoms and didn't have it's mind-boggling. And being in the nonprofit world, I understand any world in politics and how they shape things and things together. If you want to change something, change the way you count it. Change the way you look at it. So the numbers will be lower because you've skewed them that way on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's a thing. So off to a friend of mine, again, brought into my life. All of these things are not happenstance. This is God leading my steps, ordering my steps. Because when you have Lyme, as bad as I had it then, I couldn't walk well. My vision was gone. My face was paralyzed. I couldn't speak a sentence. My mind was just gone. We call it Lyme brain, but it was gone. And most days I would want to stay in bed. I would get up maybe a few hours, but most days. And yes, you think of suicide because your life has narrowed down to the point you're wondering why you're here and you're just a burden to other people. And this is normal. I didn't know it was normal, but a friend of mine mentioned his daughter had it and she was seeing a holistic medicine doctor. It was Rockbridge Regional Health, and she was an LLMD. Does anyone know? Lyme literate medical doctor. They get more than 15 minutes training on what Lyme disease is, and they think outside of the box from what the CDC tells them to do. And so I went to see her. She started with an IGeneX test. This is not the Western blot. This is not the other one, which are so inaccurate. They're better, but not great. It came back. And I was 12 bands positive.
Wow.
She looked at me and she said, Rhonda, I have never seen anyone. You are wildly, that's her words, not mine, positive for Lyme. I'm the lucky one, right? I'm the blessed one. How many people are out there don't get a definitive test?
Yes.
But of course, she didn't test for Bartonella and Babesia, which I also have. Subsequent tests have revealed that. But I knew I had that. And she gave me 28 days of doxy, a whole month. I think they have steps they have to go through or they have their license pulled. It's true. It's true. That's how it is. So I got that and I said to her, I'm better, but I'm not 100%. I don't feel like me. And, she looks at it. She looks at the blood work and she says, you know what? I've been having success with a protocol that a microbiologist came up with. And she gave me his name. He even helps people, counsel them through. And she says, let's try that protocol. It was a 6-month protocol. And most people would never do it because it requires lifestyle changes. It requires pulsing antibiotics in phase 2. But the first step with someone with long-term Lyme, congenital Lyme, or any kind of Lyme, your body's been fighting so long and so hard, your white blood cell, you're going to have everything messed up. You need to focus on building your own immune system.
Yeah.
Come to find that out. And they are a series of tinctures, some natural holistic seeds, anything that brings the immunity up. Dr. Cameron, all of these other doctors, they have their own take on these things. I just like the one that worked for me, and it is called the Weigmann Protocol. Mr. Weigmann, doctor of microbiology, he was a very kind, faithful gentleman, never charged a cent to anyone, never made any money, but yet he spent his life pouring his purpose into his life. And I will be forever grateful for getting his name and his protocol. And it was hard for me because I couldn't understand it. It was 5 or 6 pages, and I'm looking at it, and I can't understand what's, because your brain. So I worked it out, and somehow with a calendar and trying to keep track on paper, I was able to keep track of things and do phase 1 and phase 2. And quite frankly, I was afraid to go on another treatment because I'd already been through so much, and I had been so sick on the doxycycline. I mean, really, really sick. And of course, I know that's herxing now and, all that sort of thing. So I was afraid to go on this. So I said, I'm just going to get through Christmas. And then in January 2018, I'm going to start that protocol. And I did. And I went on it. And at the same time, I went on a Daniel's fast, walking in the Lord, which is normal with a Lutheran who's been raised Lutheran for Lent. But I went on it early because it was important in this protocol that you have no alcohol in your system. Hey, I was a wine club member. Give me wine and cheese. I'd happy. No, nothing. I even changed my mouthwash, so it wasn't anything in it. I was very strict. No sugar, no alcohol.
Yeah.
But because I was walking in the Lord, I also had no meat. And here's another thing. Everything that was hard to give up, I laid it down. I also gave up caffeine. Now I know caffeine carries mold. Mold is always a contingent in these illnesses. Mine was in the workplace when I got so sick with it. It was in the walls and in the floor. And I didn't know anything about it, but they diagnosed me with MS. So there was that. So anyway, here I am in 2018, starting on this protocol, scared to death. It's going to make me sick again. And, to the point where you think, am I going to live through this? And it wasn't hard. And so pretty soon after going through month 1, and I started with the next month. And it was the pulsed antibiotics, not the normal antibiotics, but antibiotics that have been researched quite effective in killing Lyme bacteria without causing biocyst, eggs, persister cells, call them what you will. Having great success with that. Dr. Soppy is the one who came up with these tests and looked at it. No one pays any attention to it, but it's... And I understand. I mean, I've talked with my doctor about it. They look at a high kill rate that Doxy will give you. But if you look at that, it's actually causing so much more persister cells or eggs, which will simply wait till the antibiotics out of your system, and then they'll hatch and you'll just all over again be sick. And then the doctor said, well, you can't have that. We've already treated you, right? This is what happens to people. Or they say, oh, you must be having a flare, or you must have Lyme disease. You never get rid of it. All of these things I've heard. But I didn't have that. I had another test, another expensive test that looked, and I didn't have Lyme anymore. It was gone.
So how many months into the protocol, new protocol?
Into the protocol, when I went in about 4 weeks in, it was like God flipped a light switch and my life was back. My sight was back. My mind was coming. There's damage. Don't get me wrong. There's damage that takes time to recuperate from. And it's a process for that. But it was night and day. The difference was night and day. Very much encouragement to continue the protocol because it's 6 months.
Yeah.
And I continued the protocol. And then at the end of the protocol, I asked my Lyme literate medical doctor for another test, and it showed that the Lyme was gone. And that was all very exciting until COVID hit. And then we had to get vaxxed where we couldn't go anywhere. And I did get a vax and a vaccine booster. And it seemed just after that, I got sick again. And I'm like, well, why didn't I get sick again? I'm not being bad. I try to maintain my health and stay away from toxins and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying anything about that. It's just a coincidence, right? So I go back to my Lyme literate medical doctor, and I remember the bite. I saw the bite. It looked angry. No, there wasn't a bullseye rash. But the familiar, it's like a migraine in the back of your neck. And it to the point that it'll make you sick to your stomach, throw up on your shoes. The point where you don't even know if you can see. But believe me, I've gone to my charity and worked to help people in that state. How I got through it, I don't know. Most people would just curl up. It's why is that? Is that fortitude? No, I call it the Holy Spirit in you, because he's working in you, right? All right, so that happened. And there's much more. There were 3 more times I was bitten, and I've had the blood work. But you see, these times I never saw the tick. The one I did see that. It was on my back. Funny thing, I asked my husband, is that a tick on me? No, honey, it's not. Yeah, it was. They can't see. They can't see. My husband is 79 years old. And then he was about 75. He couldn't see it. So he put on his glasses and used a strong light, and he did see it. And then, of course, I had the test, but not right away. Remember, it takes 4 to 6 weeks for it to even show up in your blood, because it's that test that looks for the antibodies in your system going after the Lyme or whatever it's going after. Yeah, wildly positive again, but it showed. They do the IgG and the IgM. One of them looks back and says, you didn't have it before, but now you do. Okay. That's good for me, because it shows to me I cleared it. I got to be careful and not say cure. My friend who came with the protocol used the word cure, and he was found dead last summer. So I don't use the word cure. I use the word cleared. I was cleared. And the thing is, my second book is going to be, my first book was a children's book to help children understand and be aware of Lyme. And I did that with help of the Global Lyme Alliance and How to Spot for Ticks. They have a whole program for education for our young people. Although the schools are very, very not wanting to have anyone come in and teach anything, you understand. Even though many school systems do. But still, I was able to get it out there through students. And they would bring, it's a coloring book. And it just basically makes them aware of where they might encounter a tick. And it's not from walking around in the woods like I do every morning. It can be on the park bench. It can be in a city setting. It can be when your dog, you take them out and they go to their business and they come in and they snuggle up next to you. The dogs are carriers of it, and if they're on the chew for tick repellent, it's not really a repellent. It actually just kills them. But they have to bite the dog first. But before they bite the dog and they're just on their fur, they can certainly crawl off and bite you. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people, according to the Parasite Society for Companion Animals, 1 million dogs, companion animals, will come down with Lyme.
Oh.
But yet the CDC has just recently recognized 400,000, 450,000 we're up to now. So that's half. And probably many just like me, you're not going to be counted. Even with blood work. I don't know if I was ever counted, even with the blood work. And at this point, I just don't have a lot of faith in those statistics that they're putting out because of the way that they take them. So there's my story, been told many times. When I went to my regular primary care physician, when I was so sick, and you're so sick, you can hardly lift up your head, because before the 4 to 6 weeks happen, when you have the antigens, they're attacking you, right? And you're going to have a lot of mast cell activation, they call it. And oh, it's bad. You hurt all over your body. And for me, it actually would blow out one of my eyes completely red. And basically you're curled up into a ball. And they called it a Lyme flare, my doctor. And I'm like, no, it's not a flare. And they brought out the steroids. They wanted to give me steroids. And they were writing me a prescription for Doxy and muscle relaxants. And they kept asking me while I'm wreathing in pain on their gurney, why didn't you go to the emergency room? And I said, because I've been to the emergency room. So, but anyway, I had the presence. My husband was with me because I wasn't able to drive. I had the presence of mind when they went to prepare the steroid shot to say, no, I don't want any of it. Stay away from me with all of it. Because I remembered, I had just enough cognizant ability to remember that steroids and Lyme, they love it. They love to eat it. So I'm not going to give it to them. And I didn't take it. Instead, I went to my Lyme literate medical doctor. But here's the thing. Remember those 12 bands? She told me that was evidence that my body had a crazy immune reaction. I was fighting it on every level. And it takes, I understand, you have the first round of defenders in the immune system. Then you have your second round. Your second round is the thing that fights Lyme and COVID. But the second one is that fights Lyme, but it doesn't kick in 12 to 14 days. So that you're going to be really sick. And if you run to the regular doctor, they're going to give you a pill, give you a shot, whatever, to make you better. Because that's our make you better now. People, that's how people expect. That's what they demand. By the time I had my appointment with my Lyme literate medical doctor, my body had started to fight with that second line of defense. And I felt better, but it wasn't gone. And she took the she took the test, and we found out, yeah, I was fighting. And I was fighting on a lot of bands, just like before. So I went on the Wegman protocol again, and I learned things from that. And I felt a lot better. It wasn't like a light switch that time. And I often wondered why. And now I kind of know why. So next time it happens, I'll know better. The doctor said, oh, well, I don't see any reason why you can't have a cocktail in between. I had introduced alcohol on the days I wasn't taking pulsed antibiotics. The days I wasn't taking the antibiotics, I could have a glass of wine or whatever, making dinner, which was my favorite thing. No, you can't. And not have it to be effective as you need it to be, because this is a war. Don't get me wrong. My Lyme friends, my Lyme fellow sufferers, this is a war. And you're not going to win it with a half-assed attempt. You're not going to win it with a dose of doxy pills in your hand. You need to get it from all fronts and get serious.
And so how many years it took to come to a diagnosis?
Well, we were talking 63 years.
And during this period, approximately how many doctors you met?
Oh my gosh. I was seen by many doctors in the military, because my mother was a Marine, my father was a Marine. They never put it together. I was seen by allergist. I was seen by heart specialist, because I had the racing heart, the POTS.
Yeah.
I was seen by primary care physicians, 1, 2, 3. None of them ever put it together. But they would give me, when the tendons would come off my bones, Lyme doesn't like your tendons. It likes to, kind of chew on them. It also likes to chew up collagen. So it's certain things it likes to eat. So many, and diagnosed, like we were talking, it's a great pretender, but the hip replacement, Achilles tendon, both shoulder tendons, stroke at age 21, cancers, but they were just little cancers, not big cancers, little cancers.
Mm-hmm.
They caught them early. That's good. And then, of course, there was one doctor thought MS, and that was when I was being exposed to mold on top of the Lyme, which exacerbates, makes it worse,
Yeah.
makes it worse. And of course, I got out of that. The allergist attributed everything to mold. And of course, she never thought of it either. And I don't blame my doctors. I don't blame them. I mean, how? But I do need to know. We have to think about when we get diagnosed with something, we need to research it. And so many people are busy. They just go to their doctor and they take the diagnosis and they do what he says and they expect to feel better. And they should. But I was at the doctor with my husband at his age, being a military Vietnam veteran, has quite a few health problems. And the doctor, bless his heart, said, well, I said, well, y'all are the detectives. And he said, no, we're not. And this was just this year. He said, no, we're not. We have a toolkit. So the doctors are also constrained.
Yes.
And I've also found out that why didn't my orthopedic, who was putting me in for a hip replacement, say anything? Why was it just one hip that they needed to replace? If truly was a problem, it should have been both hips. It wasn't. It was Lyme disease attacking a big joint. But when you're in that pain of bone on bone, I was 50 when that happened. You at that point, you kind of don't care. You just want to feel better so you can walk again. And I come to find out why they couldn't say anything. And the reason is they're orthopedics. If they say anything, they're at cross purposes with their infectious disease doctors. And their license is at risk. So they can't say. Even if they know, even if they suspect. Crazy. But it was after the hip replacement when I was sitting down waiting for the plane with the lady who died of Lyme disease, who'd written a book, who handed me those symptoms, that I began to think, what if I have that and not what they're telling me? It wasn't enough for me to go and look. But when God sent another tick to bite me, and I asked my Lyme doctor, well, if you have Lyme disease and you get bitten by a tick and you see that and you get really sick, I said, what happens? She says, they have a party. I'm like, that's kind of funny because it just, again, it exacerbates things. It makes them worse. Even if your body is fighting, and she can see that by the white blood cell count. And of course, my last big blood test with IGeneX was before my Lyme literate medical doctor retired this past January. And I asked her to test me for the other ones, a Bartonella, Babesia, and other thing, Rocky Mountain. Well, the good news is I don't have Rocky Mountain spotted fever, but I did test for Bartonella and Babesia. And to me, I'm very curious why. Of course, I go to my regular doctor. And I bring my Lyme book. Here's my Lyme book. Here's my Lyme book. I bring my Lyme book and I sit down with them. I even make an appointment just to talk about this. And this is how I got my regular primary care physician to work with me for my Lyme medicines that I need. I went down. I had all my tests. They didn't. They wouldn't even put them in my chart. But I got them to put it into my chart. And then I got to be able to speak to them as to what was going on with me and show them the test. I would pull their test. They call it an executive blood test. I don't know why. Nothing executive about it. But it's just your basic blood panel. It's not going to look for Lyme. It's never going to tell them because they're not asking for it. Okay, so you know that. But what's showing up in your regular blood panel that could be an indicator that they need to look further? Again, they're not detectives. They're not going to look. Remember? But in mine, when I looked at them, the things that were flagging were, one, I always had a temperature of 97 degrees. Come to find out from some people, that it's an indicator that you're fighting the bacteria that like it cool.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. And that is one of them. When I smiled, I couldn't smile a natural smile like I'm smiling. It looked like a grimace because the bacteria will attack your face just before it comes and diagnosed with Bell palsy. It will just kind of do that. And I had almost like a frozen face for a couple of years. It was weird. So that's another indicator. But in the blood work, anemic, babesia. It destroys your red blood cells. So why wouldn't you be anemic? But why didn't the doctor say, no, they're going to give you an iron pill, honey. They're not going to look. So anemic. What else might be weird? Your white blood cell count might be low or high fighting. And it might be so tired of fighting it's low. So these are the things I look at, and I just realize it's not their fault. They can't see anything from that blood work that would indicate. But what things are they seeing that indicates you are fighting infection? Well, you might have high cholesterol.
Mm.
You might have high blood pressure because you're in pain. Imagine that. But anyway, I've been, and of course, sugar. They give you the steroids, and then your sugar goes high, and then they want to give you metformin. They also diagnosed me with diabetes. Mm. Generalized arthritis throughout the body, diabetes. Oh my gosh. I don't know, but all of them are gone now. When I'm well, I don't have high blood pressure. When I'm well, I don't have high cholesterol. Normal for my age, you know? These are the things I'm beginning to look at. And then I'm beginning to wonder why some people take the same protocol I do and they don't get well. Is it because they don't change their lifestyle? No, I don't want to blame anyone. But again, it's like cancer. You're fighting. It's very much like cancer. You've got to fight in all things. And of course, we should talk about cancer. Cancer comes from inflammation. What is Lyme and co-infections? Anything but inflammation in the body. Inflammation in the body. And behind what you had was inflammation at the core. We get to be the detectives, evidently. But with this information from the doctor, I was able to go. I was able to give her I have a Lyme group. It's called the Valley Lyme Support Forum. And in it, no cost, nothing cost, the coaches cost, everything else cost, not me. In it, they just go to files and click the Wagman protocol. It's like a 4 or 5 page letter. It's written to your doctor, your primary care physician.
No.
And that's what I took to my primary care physician with my test results from my Lyme literate medical doctor and discussed with her how I had chronic Lyme, how I cleared it, how I felt better. And it was almost like I flipped a light switch for her too. And I said, I'm here to ask you, my Lyme literate medical doctor is retiring. Can I get the meds that she's been giving me from you? And she said, absolutely. So what if more of us just went to our primary care physician with that letter and said, I've been fighting Lyme for a long time. My Lyme literate medical doctor's in Canada or whatever, and it's gotten to the point where I just can't afford it. Your primary care physician is just a medication manager after all, right? And a gate to refer you to the specialist that you might need. And there's a lot of protocols out there, and there's all different kinds of tinctures and different things for people. And the reality is the toxins in our world, the toxins in our food, it's a perfect storm.
So what type of detox protocol you have done?
Say what? Detox what?
Detox protocols that you have done.
Oh, the first couple of months are a detox protocol. And you don't take any alcohol in. You eat the whole foods. You eat no processed sugar, flour. It's a gluten-free situation. I just went keto. basically, meat and all. It would work
Yeah.
very well. Lost some weight, and that was good too, because you tend to pack on pounds with Lyme. The inflammation does that for you. And of course, the other things I mentioned, you can't have spirits of any kind, so forget the wine. And then you can have boost the immune system at the same time. So there's herbs in it. Now, all of this, again, is on that Valley Lyme support form. It's free. Just go under files. It's listed there as phase 1. Everything that you need. And all of those things I can get on Amazon. I didn't need anybody for them. And I still take them. They include your apricot seeds, which give you trace minerals that you don't get in your B vitamin range, B17 in specifically, not in a dose that will kill you. Okay. Everyone says, oh my God, that's arsenic. No. Just a little of that. And then, of course, iodine is important. And Mr. Wagman and I would talk all the time. And I would be the geek who would ask, well, why is this and why is that? And he would be the patient father who would say, well, it's because of this. And most people would just go, oh, I can't take another study, because he knew it. He knew it good. And he said, it's your mucosal system, your first line of defense in immunity, and you need to boost it. And the iodine helps with that. So, I didn't want to just willy-nilly take stuff, right? And then, of course, there's the berber, which helps with brain fog. And then there's some things that the doctor has mentioned that helps with Babesia and Bartonella. The studies at Harvard mentioned clove. Most people know about stevia. Yeah, I'm using it in the packet, but they were actually talking about the oil that actually fights the bacteria sometimes better than an antibiotic. So it's kind of like these natural things where you take them. I take them in the morning. And you know what? I still eat my seeds every morning. I still want to keep my immunity high, because what happens? You get over 50, you get over 60, and your ability to fight diseases is going to go down just naturally because of the process of aging. So I still continue with that. However, if Lyme disease rears its ugly head, even if I don't see a tick, I recognize the symptoms like light bulbs now. And I've taken enough tests to know. So this past year was kind of surprising, because I had Lyme disease and breast cancer at the same time. Very surprising.
So for this particular protocol, how costly the herbs are?
Costly. Oh, it's so cheap. It's like Amazon, $150 for the tinctures, and the seeds like $29, something like that. And then the antibiotics themselves were covered by insurance because my doctor prescribed them, and they were specifically minocycline and tendosol, which are the ones that are effective in clearing the most spirochetes without making eggs. So that is the criteria for that, and they're going to help. So in a way, they're like stealth killing. So that's good. And those things that you take, those things you need, I think they were less than 60, my portion of them. And then, of course, it included a round of ivermectin, because you don't want parasites in your body. You can't, how many fronts can you fight at one time, right? So, and it included a round of ivermectin in phase 2. And then phase 3 was basically stay healthy, with your diet. And it included tribiotics, which was just over the counter. Again, Amazon, order it up. It comes in easy peasy. And that, that helps me. I haven't had to go on a full-blown protocol since last year. But when I found out this past October, I still had Babesia and Bartonella. That was weird. And then this last April, before this past October, last year, April, it's when you have your general practitioner annual healthcare check, right? They do the blood work.
Yeah.
They check to see if they can put you on cholesterol medicine. They check to see if they can put you on high blood pressure medicine. So they're checking all those things. And I go in and they're doing those things. They're checking your weight, that sort of things. I go in and of course I wasn't feeling well. And I kind of suspected I might have Lyme. I hadn't been definitive yet, but I told them that, especially when the cholesterol came back high again. And my temperature was 97 again. I said, I think I might have Lyme again, but I don't recall being bitten. And of course, they just dismiss that when you tell them that, by the way. They just will. And that's fine. You can just work with that. This was before my meeting with her. And at the same time, it was time for my annual mammogram. So I had that done at the same time. 2 weeks after that, I had met with my Lyme literate medical doctors about 4 or 5 weeks after that. I got the Lyme panel back and I was positive again. You know, maybe wildly positive, maybe 9 bands, something like that. It was not good. And I'm like, oh my gosh, not again, right? And that's what we all say. No, it's not a flare. You've been rebitten. So, but what I didn't suspect is at the same time, they looked at that mammogram and said, oops, this doesn't look good. This is suspect. We need to follow up with a diagnostic mammogram in a few months. I'm like, okay, I've had this done before. Mr. Wagman had put in my hand a study by Dr. Sopping, the same one who did the study about the eggs and which antibiotic works the best. She is a breast cancer researcher, world renowned. And this is the study. This is the study, February 13th, 2024. It was put in my hands in March. I was diagnosed with a bad mammogram in April. Got it? And I had Lyme disease again. Borrelia burgdorferi, the causative agent of Lyme disease, has recently been demonstrated to infect and enhance the invasive properties of breast cancer, while also influencing the expression of inflammatory chemocyclins, the mast cell. This study cites, and it's 12 pages, this study cites 350 ductal carcinomas. That's what I had. 32 lobular carcinomas and 22 intraductal invasive breast carcinomas. Mine wasn't invasive, but it was ductal, but it was close to being invasive. And it was alongside 29 normal breast tissues. In this study, over 50% of them were lying up near the ones that had cancer. There were 29 normal breast tissues. Of the 29 normal breast tissues, all normal breast tissues tested negative. I don't know what's more damning, the front end or the back end, but it was enough for me because when I had that study in my hand and I wasn't sure why I had it in my hand, but it became clear to me because I stepped marching diagnostic after diagnostic after diagnostic. And then in December, I ran in and I went through everything. I went through the Wagman protocol again. Remember, I had Lyme disease when they first did the mammogram. The tick that originally bit me again when I was 60 some years old was right here. The cancer was right here. What the hell? I don't know. That's just weird. Okay. That's, I don't have a study of 500-600 people like she did. So I kept going through these diagnostics. I was taking the Lyme disease cure again. I was being very good with my diet. I was perfect. No sugar, no alcohol. I did all the toxin thing as best I could. I did the ivermectin thing. I even did red light therapy. Num. Everything. I didn't do the soursop soap stuff. People talk about that. I don't know what that is, but it sounded like soap to me. But I did all of those things. And so in December, this past December 24, and I ran back in to have another diagnostic mammogram. And they looked at me and I ran up and I said, is it gone? Because I expected it to be gone. I'd been praying for it to be gone. And she says, no, Rhonda, it's not. We need to recommend you for a biopsy. And so you're crestfallen because you've done everything you know how to do and it's still not gone. And you're like, God, why me? So I had that biopsy in January. When I was brought back and told, I got the phone call from the biopsy doctor, and she said, Rhonda, yes, you have breast cancer, but it's early and it's 99.6% curable with surgery. Surgery? Okay. So that was January. Lent's coming, right? So I went, I was really strict on Lent too. Laid it all down, did everything I could. And I did another thing. I went to my pastors who are friends. I have a ministry and I've had it for 15 years called Morning Walk. And I asked my pastor friends, and I asked one of them, I said, is it okay to come before God's throne with a really bold prayer? And they said, yes, absolutely. And I said, okay, then I want to ask him to heal me in such a way that man cannot deny it was him. That's it. I didn't pray for the surgeon's hands, nothing. That's what I prayed. And probably about 50,000 other people were in the prayer group. And that's great because the power of prayer is positive in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I believe. And of course, you're going to get an answer to your prayer, sometimes not the way you think. So when I met with the doctor and we deciding on steps, of course, my first prayer before that bold prayer was wise discernment. Because of this study in my hand, she said, you can have a lumpectomy with radiation for 6 weeks, or you can have a mastectomy, no radiation. Well, guess what? I don't want radiation over my heart. So I said, no, I'm going to have a mastectomy. And because of this study, 50% was good enough for me. I said, I'm going to have a double mastectomy because I don't want to worry about this next year. I said, I'm old and I want to go through this once and that's it. And so she said, that's fine. You know, many women elect to have a double, even though it would be considered, what do you call prophylactic on the other side? That means, you know, in advance of actually finding something. It's okay. So that's what we decided to do. Meanwhile, everyone's praying for me that my cancer is healed in such a way that no one could deny it was God that did it. And April 8th, I had the double mastectomy. I so much wanted to jump off that gurney before they took me back and run, but I didn't do it. I went. We call that a Gethsemane moment. You want to get up off the gurney and leave. But I didn't. And then I sat down with my breast cancer surgeon on Good Friday, just a week later. And they had finished the pathology on both breasts. And she said, Rhonda, they found no evidence of disease. Nothing. I'm like, what? There's nothing. It's gone. I looked at her. I said, like miraculously gone? I said, you don't understand. That's exactly what I prayed for. Now, I love my doctor. She's perfect. But she is a woman of science. And she said, well, there is evidence that people of faith have a better outcome, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay. Well, then, Lucy, you got some explaining to do. What's the explanation here? And she looked at me and she said, Rhonda, we think it must have. We think it must have. Boy, that's scientific terms for you, right? She said, we think it must have been the biopsy got it all, decimated the cancer. And I'm like, okay. You know, I was kind of sad I didn't have my miracle that I thought I had, but I still had it. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
She said, I said, so it's not rare? It's not like 1 in 100,000 spontaneous remission? No. Spontaneous regression? No. She says, I see it time to time. I said, you see it time to time? Yes. So she considered it not rare and she sees it time to time. I didn't know what to think. I just left the office with, praise God on my lips, right? And the mercy me song in my head. Who am I? So I wasn't going to believe that, because that was just their explanation, right? Because someone who doesn't have faith is going to make up a rule as to why you are healed. Okay? They're going to just make up a rule about it. But then God put it in my head. Why? Why is that happening? And he gave it to me, right? So I had already called up for you, they call it, all of my records, all of the x-rays, all of the mammograms. And you have to have a proprietary program to even look at them. So I loaded all that stuff on and I started looking at every single thing. And that's when I realized they took a mammogram after they did the procedure that took all the cancer. So I went quickly to that procedure and I looked at the doctor's notes, and the technician had noted that the biopsy breast marker was in place. Well, that's not a radiologist's note. No one looked. They set me up for surgery. They never told me that it was possibly gone just from the biopsy. And they did a double mastectomy, and they never told me. And I'm like, wait a minute. Shouldn't I have informed consent? Shouldn't I have known? I've come to find out from the experts that the treatment plan, the pathway to surgery, would have changed. They still would have recommended a lumpectomy with 5 weeks to 6 weeks of radiation, or a mastectomy. It wouldn't have changed, even if they had looked. So then why bother? Well, I said, because if you had bothered and told me, I would have said, whoa, stop this train. Because that's exactly what I prayed for, right? It was evidence that what I had prayed for had happened. And I would have said, whoa, wait. Let's go back and look at it in 6 months and see. But I didn't get that chance because, unfortunately, the steps currently don't require them to look.
No.
I'm advocating for them to look. I'm waiting for an appointment on the National Association of Physicians Breast Cancer Leadership Committee. And this is where we look at ways to improve the outcome and the steps to the outcome for cancer patients.
Okay. So that is really interesting and inspiring. Yeah.
Who am I? Who am I? And so God, through this, if you look at it, even though I didn't get what I prayed for, I did. And he's showing me that I got it. But the system, the way things are done, mammon, if you will, wouldn't allow it. Do you want to guess how much this was? $200,000. Do I feel like a commodity? Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah. So you are an education ambassador for Global Lyme Alliance. So what is one key piece or advice you would offer to somebody newly diagnosed with Lyme disease?
Newly diagnosed with Lyme disease. So you've been to the emergency room, you've been bitten by a tick, and they give you a shot or 3 pills or whatever the protocol now is. If you've been bitten within 24 hours, they give you a high dose of doxy to wipe it out. Watch your symptoms. Keep abreast of them. Pull your symptoms. They're readily available. It's under Global Lyme Alliance. It's under Lyme Network. It's under all of these places. You can look at the list. Watch your symptoms. Be your own advocate. Because they're supposed to tell you that this may or may not help it or clear it, and you need to watch your symptoms. But they don't. They just discount and say, okay, you're fine now. And you don't blindly think that. You don't need to run to a Lyme literate medical doctor. If you get bitten, save the tick. Don't squish it. Don't put it under tape. Put it in a plastic bag, a leaf that's wet, zip it up. And if you feel sick or you get a rash, not necessarily a bullseye, but any rash anywhere on your body, and you start to feel a little flu-like, send that tick into one of the cheap tick spotters. They would diagnose what was in that tick's body, in its gut, when it bit you. And no, it doesn't have to be attached 12 hours. It can bite you. What happens is if it bites you and disseminates the bacteria within the first 15 minutes, they're done. But the chances of them giving it to you increase the longer they've been attached. I don't understand that thinking, but that's what they say. But what they come out and say is, has to be attached 12 hours. That's not true. That's just another Lyme lie. So yes, you can do those things when you've been bitten. A lot of people will ring me up or message me, I've been bitten, what do I do? And that's how I know what they do in the emergency rooms. If you've been first bitten, I'd like to think that protocol might work on you. But I've begun to think no one's first bitten. And then we have so many children congenitally born with Lyme disease. They will never test like someone like me, like going off like a light bulb, wildly positive. They're not going to test like that. And yet they're going to have a lot of things going on wrong, which will be exacerbated by vaccines and all these things. Everything is integrated and interrelated, and I'm beginning to look and wonder. It's almost as if the ticks have gain of function. I don't know.
So you have supported many women through their life journey. What is the most empowering step a woman can take to regain her health?
Most important step a woman can take to regain her health is moderation. Watch your toxins. This includes your makeup, ladies. This includes your hair color. This includes your water. This includes what you're eating. And it's true, the foods that we have available to us on the shelf are not good for you, a lot of them. And unless you're living in Europe, you'll have a cleaner diet. But clean, whole foods, be an advocate for that, and try to keep your children away from it too. I go to the grocery store and I see these people who can barely walk, and they're piling in these caramel colored drinks in the 6 or 8 pack, and they're drinking them all day. And I have water with pomegranate tea bags in it, right, with a little lemon. So you need to improve your immune system, things in moderation. So that's what women can do. And if you ever have symptoms of Lyme disease and you go to your doctor and they ask you, whether this is the emergency room of your doctor, well, did you see a tick bite you? Just say yes.
Okay.
Because if you don't say yes, they're not going to look.
So Lyme patients often struggle with mental health.
Yes.
What advice would you offer to them to help emotionally and mentally?
I did too. I mentioned that earlier. And it's easy to slip when you depend only on you. So I would get up every morning, and I still do. I mean, it was 15 years ago. I get up every morning and I walk, and I walk in the Word. I call it prayer walking or walking with Jesus. And I would read the Word when I could read the Word. Sometimes my vision wasn't good, right? And I would just accept, give yourself some grace. Because believe me, if something's going on in your life, God's shaking you up for a reason. It's going to shake out, and you will find out why. Because until I said to God, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know how I can survive. I'm laying it at your feet because it's beyond my strength. And if this is where you want me, and if this is how my life is for the rest of my days, so be it. And then I got referred to the Lyme literate medical doctor. Not by a doctor, by a friend.
So Crown Clips has become a successful venture from your side. So can you share how the idea was born and how you turned it into a flourishing business?
Oh, that's an interesting story. Remember I was telling you about congenital Lyme? My son has it. He fights it. He's young. He can still fight it, right? But when he was younger, he had a lot of issues with anxiety, diagnosed with a lot of mental health issues, ADHD. I don't know. One doctor said he was a trash can. I didn't like that diagnosis, but he had become so disabled he couldn't even go to school. And I came up with the idea for the crown clip when I was Mrs. Virginia. I forget which one it was, but I got involved in the pageant system and I was representing Virginia. And I was speaking to some children and the crown came off my head, put it on a child's head. And she was like, oh, look at me. And it fell to the ground. I'm like, on the way back from that appearance at the library, I asked God, I said, there must be a way to keep a crown on a head so a child can enjoy a moment of imagining what their life can be. I woke up the next morning, as he often does with me, with everything, the engineering, everything I needed to make it. And I sat down and I built the prototype. And then after I built the prototype, I refined it and I got my first patent. And then I started to market it. And the reason why I did this, remember your why. My why was I wanted to have a business at home that I could have for my son because he couldn't leave the house. And how was he going to live or support himself without something? And so the reason why I invented crown clips was to save my son. And now I've used that to fund my philanthropy because God healed him too. And that's a whole nother story.
So the Cinderella project is something you have deeply passionate with. So
Yes.
can you tell some about how it started and how it impacted the lives of our 2,500 teens?
Yes, I started it in 2004, 5 maybe, 4. And I was the director of Habitat for Humanity, building homes with families in need. And they knew that I was, in the world of pageants and had dresses and different things like that. And they knew I had a son. They asked me, they would call and say, Rhonda, can you help me to find a dress for my daughter? She has prom coming up and we don't have anything and our budget. Yes, I knew their budget. I educated them on their budget for months before they had their house. So they not only built their house, they could keep their house. But I said, absolutely. An article by one of my friends came out in the newspaper. It said that the average price that a family, this is 2005, 2004, price that a family pays for one girl to go to prom is $1,200.
Oh.
That was 20 years ago. 23, anyway. She, and with that in my mind, you know how God is. He kept bugging me. And I was very busy because I had a lot. Nonprofits, you always have more work. You're long on work and short on time.
Yeah.
And I had an office manager who I loved to death, but she loved to always be the opposite. She was my opposite. So she was my check. If she said, don't do it, I knew to do it, right? Okay. And when God kept bugging me, I literally was in my office. I said, okay, I'm going to ask 3 people, Lord. If any one of them says no, I'm not doing this. The first person I asked was Miss Opposite, my office manager. I said, hey, I have this idea that I'm feeling called to do. And it would be this. And she said, oh my, that's a wonderful idea. That you would be great at that. Maybe she thought I was quitting. I don't know. And I just kind of put my head down, walked back in my office. I'm like, okay, Okay. Well, then I knew for sure when I went down to the Salvation Army and talked to my friend Captain May that he would say, no, Rhonda, we can't do a project like that here because we're just trying to get sneakers and jeans on these kids so they can go to school. No, Captain May looked at me and he said, Rhonda, that's a great idea. We would love to host you here and we can set you up over here in the corner. And I'm like, okay. And I said, why are you doing this? And he says, because these kids don't need to feel like second-class citizens. These kids need to feel empowered. And so before equity and all of this was a thing, Cinderella Project was born. My last call was to the friend who wrote the article. And I said, Chris, you wrote an article last week and it convicted me. We call that in the religious world, we call that being convicted. It convicted me to start this project. What do you think? And I thought for sure, I know this. I'm an APR. I know the news cycle. He should have said to me, he should have said, no, Rhonda, we can't do that. We just ran a story on last week. It was a full page story. He said, no, that's great. And I'm going to do a story. That's a great idea. I'm like, oh no, another full page story. And what I did was I went to my closet and I took 10 items. 10, it's a biblical thing. And 10 purses and 10 shoes. I went down to the Salvation Army and Captain May had one of those tall round racks up there and I hung the items up there and boy, did they look lost on that big rack. Oh, this is a rack that might hold 200 dresses, right? Put them up there. The article came out and God, within a week and a half, that rack was bursting and Captain May had to get me another one. So the project was born on Good Friday, 2004. And it went from a couple of weekends to year round. Our first home at one mall, and we were shut out of that during COVID, and they tore the mall down, and now we're in another mall. We went literally from a 100 square foot, 10 by 10 spot that we had in the corner of the Salvation Army to a 10,000 square foot store in a prestigious mall with 9 dressing rooms and more than 2,000 pieces of inventory. And we serve the girls and we serve the boys. We serve them head to toe, everything they need, absolutely free. And it is the biggest blessing because no matter how bad I feel when I'm sick with Lyme disease, I can go in there and that joy of helping someone else makes me feel
very comforting, very comforting.
Very important. And that's, or we just continue it. He gives me the strength to do it. I will continue it. We serve year round now too, not just a couple weekends.
So what is one piece of advice you would give to someone who feels stuck in their illness, especially Lyme disease?
Oh, now that's easy, feeling stuck. You need to reach out beyond you. Because if you're going to look at you, you're going to be stuck every time, right? And I don't know whether it's karma or, what you believe, but you need to step out in faith and get somehow, because it's hard, because you've been through it so long. I remember what it was like. I didn't even want to try another protocol because I'd been so sick and they made me so sick, some of these protocols, that I'd have to wear diapers to bed and I couldn't get out of bed because I was just so sick. And I was just giving up. Don't give up. Tenacity. Don't give up. Lay it down. Ask God to help you. If you don't have any faith, do it without faith. Do it scared. But just ask him to help you. He's going to help you. And then maybe you'll have some faith.
Yeah. And the specialty of spirituality is, one, you have to, people just like that, they won't understand. But they will, whoever has experienced it, they understand this perfectly. They should have that experience. So initially I was like that. Later on, a couple of incidents happened. I really experienced. So now I am 100% convinced.
Good, good, good. People don't understand it. They don't
Yeah.
understand it. I didn't understand it when I was called, when my son was so sick, when I got on my knees and prayed for him to be better. And then God had me lose my job.
Mhm.
A beautiful job, working for the state, all the benefits, all the money, doing a perfect job. But, oh, I'm sorry, we're having a reduction in force. We had a budget cut. You have to go. Out of the blue after 16 years. I'm like, I should have known God was up to something. And out of that, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I had the opportunity to do things bigger, mammon things that came to my life. And I had things to do. I had the opportunity for the habitat that was much smaller, no benefits. I didn't even know how I was going to pay my mortgage. But God told me to take it, to serve it. And I was obedient. And that's how my son was healed, through his volunteer work. And that work for me, going from a secular setting with a state to a Christian housing ministry, allowed me to feel my faith and grow my faith on a totally different level, just like we're saying. And that power, that is not yours. That power that comes from within you, that powers you through somehow. That's what I depend on.
Yeah. So we are going to close this this episode. Do you have any special messages or for the Lyme community that we are having over here?
There's a lot of choices out there. I go try to get to the Cameron's podcast and all of the different ones and read. And there's a lot of organizations and there's coaches out there to help you, all sorts of things. But, you know, you might just want to go to that Valley Lyme support form and grab that file. Grab that 6-page letter to your own personal doctor and go and talk to them. Make an appointment specifically for this. Don't bring it up during a 15-minute general appointment. Make an appointment specifically to talk to them about your concerns about Lyme disease, why you think you have it, and how you would like them to help you manage the medications.
Yeah, this is excellent. So lot of the warriors who has appeared on this podcast, so they were telling the cost of this treatment is too high, and
Too high.
some people has withdrawn because of the thing.
Yeah.
So this will be a great blessing for them.
Oh, absolutely. And if Will Weigman was still alive today, he would be smiling because that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
Did you know he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize?
Oh.
He was nominated, but then Bayer made an objection. Imagine that. Just imagine that. And he's an unsung hero, that's for sure.
So we are going to conclude this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of today's podcast episode. Thank you, Rhonda, for sharing your incredible story and for being such a source of inspiration to all who are battling chronic Lyme disease. Your courage and insight truly mean the world to us. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who may need, and don't forget to follow us for more real stories from the Lyme community. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep supporting one another.